Hello everybody, Maven here, and it's time for that video I've hinted at for a while now. We're going to find out today what the best ad clear heavy grenade launcher is. I know that sounds ridiculous. Before, you wouldn't really use a heavy grenade launcher for ad clear because you don't really have a lot of ammo to spare. But now you do, because you know they got the damage buffs and the reserve buff. After the reserve buffs, you can hold up to a maximum of 36 ammo. That is quite a bit, so now you got some shots to spare. And also the heavy wave frames got a 20% damage buff and a 40% forgiveness buff. I know a lot of people have wanted me to try these in the videos when we do heavy grenade launcher comparisons, but I'm telling you, they're terrible, and I stand by that. But now that we're doing a test based around ad clear, maybe they have some room to shine. So let's get to it, and as always, your likes and comments are what pleases the algorithm gods, so I'd greatly appreciate it. And let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so to preface this video, you're not going to see a lot of 120 action here. It's mostly going to be 150s because they hold so much more ammo. At a maximum, a 120 I think can hold like 27 shots or something, and 150s can hold 36 shots, making them a much better ad clear option. And this is just further contributing to my opinion that the wave frames suck, because they are 120s, so they don't even hold enough ammo to be solid ad clear options. But regardless, we're gonna try it out just to please the keyboard warriors. So we're gonna do some testing in the Hydroponics Delta. Whenever I do a comparison in the Hydroponics Delta, I gotta explain why we're at the Hydroponics Delta. So here's a Sunshot body shot against an ad in the Root of Nightmares raid, and here's a Sunshot body shot against an ad in Hydroponics Delta. Ads in Hydroponics Delta have double the health of raid ads, so that is why we are here. So whenever I test out a weapon for higher level content, this is typically the place I like to go. So we're just gonna do a quick run through of this place with the grenade launchers that we're testing today. So the wave frame grenade launcher we're using here is a dimensional Hypotrochoid. It has unrelenting and chain reaction. I know some people may have wanted me to use the Guardian Games one because it has volt shot and chain reaction, but it's a heavy GL. Volt shot's not going to be super efficient on there, okay? I don't care if you have 100 reload speed, it's just not going to be efficient on this kind of archetype. So while it does sound cool, it's more cute than good. But one thing I will give the hullabaloo over the dimensional Hypotrochoid is that it has auto-loading holster with chain reaction, so I would say it is better, but I just have not farmed any Guardian Games yet. So the Hypotrochoid will have to do, but I'm telling you, it's still bad. It's a 120, it doesn't hold nearly as much ammo as the 150s. And also you have to wait for enemies to be grounded. As you see, like a lot of the Cabal, they like to jetpack around and stuff. You have to wait for them to be lined up and on the floor. That is one huge con of this thing. And another con of this weapon is that it doesn't do a lot of damage to bigger targets because it doesn't have impact damage like a typical heavy grenade launcher. So you can only really hit them with your wave. It did get an exclusive 20% damage buff, but it still doesn't hit nearly as hard as grenade launchers that have impact damage. So those were the cons, and I would say pros of this archetype is when the stars do align and targets are on the ground, it's pretty good. You kind of got to line up sometimes, but it can go through phalanx shields and stuff like that. So it's good when you're in a forbearance type of situation, but it's not always going to be like that. So I really firmly believe that Bungie should change the archetype from 120s to 150s on the wave frames. Then they would be solid ad clear options. But for now, they're kind of garbo. Now on to our next grenade launcher, the Tarnation. As you can see by my kill tracker, I mained this thing quite a bit when it came out. I was in love with it because it was very good at ad clear. And we have enhanced field prep and enhanced chain reaction. As you know, field prep increases your ammo reserves. When you enhance it, it further increases your ammo reserves. But then for some reason, when you enhance chain reaction, it also increases your ammo reserves. So we have like 3 different things kind of buffing our reserves for this thing, so it's very ammo efficient. Now I will say, before this big update, because of all the things buffing the reserves with this weapon, you did not need any reserve mods to be able to hold maximum ammo with this thing. That's why it was so good. But now after the update in the reserve buffs, because you can hold so much more ammo, it kind of shifted the properties a bit of this thing. So now you actually have to equip 1 reserve mod if you want to hold maximum ammo. You can hold 35 without it and 36 with 1 reserve buff. Now, while I will say this is a solid ad clear grenade launcher, I'm just gonna straight up say it's not the best because we have the best one coming up in a little bit. But I will say, if you are playing on an Arc subclass, you may want to consider the Tarnation over our next option because of Spark of Discharge. This is the Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. That is the only reason that you might want to consider using an Arc heavy GL over our other options. And if you are playing on Solar, you might want to consider using the Love and Death Grenade launcher that can have auto-loading holster and chain reaction. It's also 150 RPM. It's a pretty solid option. I used to have this thing and I used to love it, but I dismantled it after they took Warm Mind cells out of the game. Rest in peace. But it does work with Ember of Empyrean, so you can extend your Radiant and Restoration forever by getting final blows with a Solar weapon. But now we come to the ultimate Ad Clear grenade launcher, and that is going to be the Koraxis Distress from the Root of Nightmares raid. I have really given praise to this thing in the last couple heavy grenade launcher videos we've done. Those videos were based around DPS, and this thing was surrounded, does insane DPS, but I also hinted at the fact that you can do like a pseudo ad clear roll for this thing. So let's take a quick look at its possible rolls. If you want a DPS, you'd go with Enhanced Reconstruction and Hand Surrounded. However, if you were doing just dedicated ad clear, you can go with something like Chain Reaction and Hatchling. But if you wanted to make a hybrid roll, you can have Chain Reaction in that left column, which no other heavy GL has Chain Reaction in the left column. And remember, when you enhance it, you also get bonus reserves, but you can pair it along with a damage perk in the right side column. So you can have something like Paracausal Affinity to have that constant 20% damage buff as long as you keep killing stuff. You can have Surrounded to have that 47% damage buff when you're surrounded, which is very, very, very strong against certain bosses. But the perk I ultimately went with was Frenzy. Frenzy is going to give you a constant 15% damage buff. Typically in situations where you actually pull out your heavy GL to do ad clear, you've probably been in combat for a bit. So Frenzy should be procced, and it also grants you plus 100 reload speed. Now typically you would run something like a backup mag to help out the weapon's efficiency, but now you can run something like an augmented drum, which gives you plus 2 in the magazine and minus 20 reload speed, but we do not care about that minus 20 reload speed because Frenzy grants us plus 100 reload speed, as you can see there. So that allows us to run a mod like Boss Spec, for example. So between having 7 in the mag with Boss Spec and Frenzy up, you can do some solid boss DPS while also having a solid ad clear option and boosted reserves. It's such an incredible hybrid role for ad clear and damage. I absolutely love this thing. Now for those who are new here and didn't know, I did do a video of comparing rocket launchers versus heavy grenade launchers after the buffs. And spoiler alert, heavy grenade launchers are a lot better than rocket launchers now. And as you can see in this clip here, we have a Well of Radiance, we have Apex Predator, we have Gallarhorn, and I tried out rocket launchers post buff, and we did get that bait and switch nerf as well. The final damage outcome for Apex Predator with Galley was 1.39 million. And for this video, I did an additional Phyresia clip with our hybrid Koraxis Distress roll alone, and it did get over 1.4 million damage, beating out Apex Predator with Gallarhorn. Now before we delve more on this, in that other video I did do a Phyresia test with the Cataphract GL3 Adept with auto-loading holster and bait and switch, and we did end up with over 1.6 million damage, so it is the better option for straight up DPS. But when it comes to the Koraxis Distress, you got more ammo efficiency and you got the ad clear. So is it worth sacrificing 200,000 damage to have more potential usage in a greater array of content? I think so. I would probably use this as my main heavy grenade launcher. But when it comes to the boss encounter of a raid or dungeon, I would just swap to the Cataphract, but everywhere else, I think the Corax is going to be a solid option. You can burst down those majors, you can burst down those mini bosses. If you're doing a strike, you're not really going to swap like near the end and lose all your ammo. You can still stick with that option and it's going to be solid. And for ad clear, it does the job. It's got chain reaction, same as Tarnation, same as Love and Death. But the Koraxis Distress is still better than those for ad clear. Why? Because this season specifically, we have a couple artifact mods called Unraveling Orbs and Horde Shuttle. So we can get unraveling rounds really easily and also make constant threadlings to further contribute to our ad clear. But also without these artifact mods, you can still achieve unraveling rounds within your subclass. But you know, on Solar, there's no Solar rounds. On Arc, there's no Arc rounds. So the fact that we have this unraveling rounds advantage to get even better ad clear is just bonus on top of the Koraxis already being insane. So I firmly believe the Koraxis Distress is just one of the best weapons now, and if you don't have this thing crafted, definitely go and get those red borders and complete this thing. If you got an adept version, more power to you. Now, one single con I would give the Koraxis Distress is because Unlike Tarnation that has field prep, you actually have to run 2 reserve mods to be able to hold 36 ammo with this thing as opposed to just 1. And now for those who were concerned about ammo consumption, if you feel like you're still gonna run out of heavy ammo, then let me tell you, you're gonna want to run triple heavy ammo finder. When you stack multiple copies of this mod, it makes it so the finder brick that drops will provide even more ammo. Now let me show you some finder brick clips here, and RNG can vary the amount you scavenge, but with 1 finder brick we scavenge 3 to 4 ammo, and with 2 heavy ammo finder mods we can scavenge 7 to 8 ammo, and with 3 heavy ammo finder mods we can scavenge 11 to 12 ammo. That is exactly a third of our reserves. And just to compare that to a real heavy brick, we scavenge 12 ammo. So having triple ammo finder makes your finder bricks exactly as powerful as real bricks. And for the record, reserve mods do increase the amount of ammo you scavenge from bricks because there's a different multiplier enabled. And some people may be curious, do scavenger mods work with finder bricks? So I did a little test of that, walk over brick, and we scavenged 10 ammo when before we scavenged 12. So I believe it does work, but correct me if I'm wrong. And while we're on the topic of ammo finders, I wanted to clear up a quick little misconception about finder mods. People seem to think that they are RNG. Like, what if I never get a finder brick to spawn? I'm gonna be low on heavy ammo, but it is not RNG. As you can see here, it says that exotic primary weapons increase the chances of heavy brick to spawn, and there is a set number of kills whether you're using exotic primary or not. So when you're using an exotic primary, it's gonna take exactly 17 kills on the dot every time to spawn a heavy brick. It is not RNG, it is programmed that way. Try it yourself. So with all that being said, if you still feel like heavy grenade launchers are not efficient enough for ad clear, just run triple finders and an exotic primary, and there you go. So that about wraps up our comparisons for today. Really not much to it, not much to go over. Koraxis Distress is the end all be all ad clear heavy grenade launcher, and I feel like there is no arguing that. If you use a wave frame, I feel like you're throwing, honestly. And the Tarnation may be worth considering for an arc subclass because of Spark of Discharge, and then Love and Death because of Ember of Empyrean. However, do you really want to sacrifice that 15% bonus damage and 100 reload speed for a tiny bit of subclass synergy? It's really up to you. So do yourselves a favor, get a Koraxis Distress crafted. This is a weapon you're definitely going to want to have moving forward in Destiny 2. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Feel free to debate, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like and a comment, because as always, your interaction is a determining factor whether this video does well or not, so I greatly appreciate it. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.